Today is April 18th, 1975, and I'm interviewing Ruth Eliav. Eliav Kruger.
Right.
Okay. As you know, I'm dealing with the question of the role of the American Jewish chaplain in their efforts to help the remnants of European Jewry from June of 44 to May of 1948. And I'm interested in knowing who you were dealing with, who was the first chaplain you dealt with in Europe, and the type of work that he was doing with you, or you were with him.
Are you referring only to American chaplains?
Jewish chaplains, yes.
Oh, I see. Well, that makes a difference. The first chaplain, American chaplain I met in Paris, lives now in Israel. You should interview him. And his name is Hazelcorn.
Yeah, I met Rabbi Hazelcorn.
He was the first one. I didn't know what his role or standing is. I knew his rank. But he didn't ask too many questions, and he just did what he was told to do.
What were the type of things that you were asking him to do?
Well, to begin with, I asked him for PX cards. This was a very important matter to us. And the second thing I asked him is to tell me where are the chaplains, who are the chaplains, who is the chief chaplain. And actually, I should have met before that Yehuda Neidich.
Right.
I don't know whether you met him or not.
No, I didn't speak to him.
Yehuda Neidich was the chief chaplain for the Jewish chaplains in Europe. I better close the door, because this is why I'm moving out of here, because it's impossible. There are 16 bagger machines. I suppose you know where to find Yehuda Neidich. If not, I give you
No, I know.
all particulars. He is the chief rabbi of the Park Avenue Synagogue.
I'm interested in your evaluation of his efforts.
Well, Rabbi Neidich was in Paris when Eisenhower was in Paris with the Shave Mission.
Right.
But at that point, I did not meet him. As I said, the first one who walked into my office in Paris in 1945 was Hazelcorn.
Mm-hmm.
Except South Africans and British rabbis. Mm-hmm. One of them I met already in Cairo, became then chief rabbi of Great Britain and Ireland. This was late Rabbi Brode, who was the chief chaplain of the British forces. But him I met already in Cairo long before. I parachuted into Europe. It was in 1941. Hazelcorn walked in like an angel from heaven. He was then, he told me it's from Poughkeepsie. I didn't have a clue where is Poughkeepsie, what's Poughkeepsie. And he did what he was told in a very generous, modest, beautiful manner. He then told me, if you want, I said, I have to mobilize the chaplains. He didn't know exactly what I mean, but to me at that point, nothing was standing in my way. I just asked if I got a hold of somebody. If I asked from the Goyim, I could ask from the Jews. And at that point, I must tell you that Colonel Ernest Witte from Section 5 of Displaced Persons was a great help. A Quaker couple stole literally what I wanted, blankets and things, and medical equipment that I wanted. So I could ask from our own people. But with Hazelcorn, there was no question. He just said, tell me what to do, and he did.
What are the type of things that aside from the PX cards that you needed from him?
First of all, I wanted from him to be a courier. This was very important. I didn't have time, because on my footsteps on this office steps were sitting thousands of displaced persons who already arrived through ways before the liberation from other parts like Italy, who was already free. He gave me then a list and told me one of the chaplains in the British, who is moving between the American, the British, and is moving around is Abe Klausner, great Schwitzer. And he became really the one, because Neidich was actually the policymaker and advisor to Eisenhower on Jewish affairs until Judge Rifkin came.
Right.
I then decided to go to, I was in Belsen on the 15th of April at the liberation, but this was the British zone. And only after that, but I had already contact to Eisenhower. Eisenhower gave me already at that point a lot of help. Actually, he gave me already help when he was still, when the Shave mission was still in Paris in 1944 or 5, before they moved to Frankfurt. I met then Neidich in 1945 in Frankfurt at the IG Farben building, and he said, you want the chaplains, you find them. He was cautious a little bit about it. Not that he didn't help, but he could not possibly officially say, I'll give orders. He did it.
Right.
He did it. But he couldn't tell me that he's going to do it. I knew he will do it. I didn't ask too many questions. I only asked him, as then the advisor to headquarters. We wanted immediately to have a committee of the liberated Jews. We wanted to have, simply occupy in Germany places that belonged to Göring or to Goebbels or to estates for recuperation of children. We wanted to have a hospital in Fernwald to take over the German hospital. Mm-hmm. We wanted to simply to take whatever we wanted to take. And we needed the help of, although I myself had already pips of an American colonel, which was given to me by Eisenhower officially, I was also in charge of giving permission who is going to Germany, who is not going to Germany, because congressmen and that kind of people started to flood, including Mr. LaGuardia. And I had to sort it out that things should not. There's another thing. I wanted, for instance, entertainment for the people. This was important to rehabilitate them, not by food, because the American army was starting to give them food. Cafe. Cafe. Okay. I wanted to give them spiritual uplift. Mm-hmm. The American army were throwing to them bully beef and all that, and people died. They were not used to. Those services I could best arrange through chaplains. Then came a great thing. The liberation was on the 15th of April, 1945, officially. This was Erev Pesach. And I have decided to give them the first Seder after so many years. Well, I didn't want to do it in Germany. And I have occupied in a French army camp in the Grand Arenas near Marseille. Simply occupied, I chased out whoever was there and took it over because there were good barracks and all that kind of stuff. And I brought over people from all over the camps because I was preparing to demand from Eisenhower an army ship. which sounded to them very funny, but to me nothing was funny at that time, and I wanted something. There was nothing that could stop me from getting it. And so I accumulated quite a few thousand, particularly the children that we found. Some played children who were already 19-year-olds, but who cares?
Was this with Rabbi Marcus, Robert Marcus? Were you involved with him in any way?
And Dector.
And Aaron Dector?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then there were other officers like Jules Donaldson. You must not always think of the chaplains always. I mean, sometimes the boys, the GIs did a beautiful job. For instance, I saved 47 children out of the Russian zone whom I found in the Jewish Community Center at Leo Beck's Jewish Community Center in a rat cellar, eaten by rats. I could do it. This is where Herbert Friedman maybe told you the story or didn't. Well, I went to him. He was the chaplain in Berlin.
Right.
And he looked at me. He was a little bit of a glamour boy, you know. Didn't know what's all about it. Well, he will tell you how I recruited him. I just recruited him. I told him, you are finished. You are in the American army, not American. I don't care. Now you have to do this. But he couldn't do a thing. I had 2 black GIs who stole trucks, but the chaplains, I mean Friedman and the others, gave me the blankets and all that I needed. You understand? And they knew that the trucks were taken. Then I asked them to give me a lot of watches for the Russian soldiers to throw and the flashlights and whatever they like. So I was afraid they will shoot the children after I took them out. When they started to call me the Pied Piper of Berlin. So those were black 2 GIs with whom I kept contact. Unfortunately, they are both not alive anymore because I usually kept contact. 2 fellows, 2 husky black fellows from Harlem. They didn't even twinkle with an eye, they just drove. So I would like you to know the help of the American chaplains was immense, in every way. Sometimes they did things which were absolutely, you can take off your jacket if you want to. Absolutely everything was against regulations. I mean, nobody would.
Could we be specific about chaplains? I really would like to get back to Judah Nadich for a second.
Yeah.
Because there has been some question as to what length he was willing to go to help out. I'd like to know you were in Paris, you held a key position, you must have asked him on numerous occasions for help. What was his response?
It's very hard to answer that question. We are good friends, but it's very hard to answer that question. Let me answer it this way. I spoke to him. And his position was such a, you know, Shalom Aleichem had a saying, in one of his beautiful sayings, wash my fur coat, but don't make it wet. If you understand what I mean by that.
Yeah, I have an idea.
I just had long conversations with him, and he knew he was brief. At least to the extent that he never could say he didn't know. You understand what I mean?
He knew everything that was going on.
Well, intentionally and purposely.
Okay.
I made sure that he's briefed on everything. Because if the other fellows will fall into a trap, I don't know what he thought about it, but I didn't in my daily pressing 24 hours around the clock work, I didn't care. Let's put it this way.
Fine.
The only thing I wanted to make sure is he knows, and he did.
But
The rest I did myself.
But when you called upon him for specific things, illegal activities that you were involved in,
I told him
he was not
that they
involved.
are being done.
But he did not offer any support.
I'll not go further than that, right?
All right. Okay. Well,
Because the next step was for me to discuss things with Rivkin.
now with Rivkin, who came later, when Judy
Not much later.
Yeah,
He
well, I
came,
mean,
he came
succeeded.
he succeeded. He succeeded him in a double. He succeeded him as advisor to Eisenhower and then to McNarney.
Right, right.
He succeeded him not as a chaplain. He remained a chaplain,
Right, no,
and he left. Neidich left
Right,
soon after that.
Right. No,
So
now with
there's
Rivkin, you had, was he more supportive of your efforts?
as every politician, he was an advisor on Jewish affairs on behalf of the United States government.
Well, the chaplains were also there on behalf of the United States government. They were not there on behalf of the DP.
Please, I beg your pardon. I would not like to compare it in any way.
Okay. Well, I'm
The
trying.
chaplains have stuck their neck out.
That's the point that I'm making.
That is absolutely untopped, except in our pioneering days here. This is the only comparison I can give you.
The chaplains went out.
Even those who didn't know what's all about it. But the minute I came like Herbert Friedman and I told him, look, you have served the American army so far, finished. You are now recruited by the Haganah in Israel. And you will meet Ben Gurion and you will take orders from me and from nobody else. And this went for all the chaplains. So maybe we skip the political side of the standings of personalities like Yehuda and Judge Rifkin and go to the essentials.
Okay, fine.
And if we go to the essentials, there is nothing on earth that the chaplains didn't do. But I would not like to miss out on the fact that the GIs as such as did it. You know, one was stealing from the other. You understand what I mean? The GI who actually should have taken orders from his superior, the simple GI, the simple Jewish GI. I'm sorry I haven't got, here I have only one relic. I have two relics that was given to me as a gift, and I can't part from it. This is the first Shabbat hanging on a Torah in Buchenwald, and the first talit the GIs gave me their, the GIs and the rabbis gave me their talitim for the survivors, and those two of such things I got as a gift, and the parochias I have here, and the talit is already in the other apartment, and it's worthwhile to see it because there's still the candles on the Shabbat parochias, you know. So therefore I would say, not one. I mean, you can say, well, Abe Klausner was a Meshuggah, so he was.
But
He wanted to be a leader, so until he started to get a little bit out of hand. And it was sometimes damaging, so we just stopped it.
How was his activity damaging?
You see, as long as Abe Klausner was doing things that we needed from
Right.
sources that we otherwise couldn't get,
Right.
as all other chaplains without asking questions, so other GIs without asking questions did, fine. But when he took over the things that were actually to be done by the leadership of the Yishuv, and I'm not speaking of myself, we were a group of people, our boss was Ben Gurion, then we stopped it, because it became already, as way back as in 1945, which was the most unhealthy thing, a political issue. The politicization of the survivors was the last thing that we had needed.
Right.
So,
And he was opposed to that.
and he has mixed himself, or trying to mix himself into everything and everywhere until we had it out, which I mean, maybe I was his arch enemy number one, but I have no regrets for that. And we had just to stop it. Just simple to stop it in a way that, because it became a question it became a question that was unpleasant. Put it this way.
Could we be more specific exactly what you're talking
No.
about?
It would be, if he would sit here, I'll do it. I'm very sorry. I can't speak about things that are not nice and not clean, not in front of the person.
He doesn't know how you feel about him?
He does. He does very well. And
So
you
then there
can,
shouldn't be any difficulty.
well, I'm sorry,
Okay,
but
all right.
he's
I
not here.
Okay, fine.
The fact is, I'm often in the United States, and as you know, but I have never endeavored to make contact.
You never saw him?
No, no. I didn't even lecture in his congregation. Neither last year nor this year. I didn't because, not that I'm not a forgiving person, but I'm unfortunately not a forgetting person. Forgive, this is another thing. Forget, this is also another thing. But I don't care to speak about that. I propose you interview him and take his story on the face value as he would.
Well, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Can we say that he was very helpful in saving Jews and rescuing Jews and being
What do you
helpful?
call saving Jews? Just a minute. Saving from where? Saving from what? We are
Dachau.
speaking about saving. It was after the liberation, my friend. What are you talking about?
Saving in the sense that he was able to provide food for them?
That was an organized thing.
I'm not taking anybody's side. I'm just asking you. That's all. I mean,
He did exactly what had to be done. The Joint Distribution Committee.
was not in
We
there at
have-
that point. We're talking,
Just a minute.
yeah.
The Joint Distribution Committee started to act in the middle of 45, when they established their offices in Rue de Téhéran in Paris.
That's in Paris, yeah.
And there we had a big fight, and I got a budget, finally, after so many years where I didn't get it. This is where saving Jews, we could have saved more than 1 million Jews if we would have had help from the United States Jewish communities. So you just, this is not a question. At that point, what we needed is to have material like trucks to bring Jews out from Poland,
Right.
like blankets, like medical equipment, like, in other words, tires, jerry cans.
He supplied that, didn't he? What I'm trying to find out...
He wasn't the only one, for
No,
God's sakes.
no,
Why
no.
give glory to somebody when there are so many who did the job with such dedication and
Well,
with such
fine.
danger for their own existence?
Fine. I'm not trying to suggest that Rabbi Klausner was the only one. Far from it. I know of many, many others. I'm just asking in particular with Rabbi Klausner because it came up. And second of all, there seems to be some controversy about him. So that's why I'm very interested in understanding from you, what is your evaluation of his work? Is it true that he helped people? Let's put it that way. That he was very instrumental in setting
In
up
what?
in setting up the Committee for the Liberated Jews of Germany, Central Committee. That he was able to help with the Unser Weg. That he was able to set up the Sherit HaPleita, the books.
No.
Well, all right.
He was
that's
one
important.
of them, of those chaplains,
Mhm.
who on the spot
Yeah.
helped to get material values. But when I speak of politicization, that is precisely the thing to establish the Committee of the Liberated Jews has been started by our own initiative,
Mhm.
which consisted of late Ben-Gurion, late Dr. Chaim Yachil, and myself. And some of our brigade boys, which deserted the British Army
Mhm.
and became shlichim. Simply, we needed hands. You must understand, to hand over the establishment of a magnitude of the Committee of Liberated Jews at that time, it had to have the basics of, I would say, Medina Baderech. Certainly not one or not two, certainly not firebrands like Abe Klausner, or there were another few, two or three, like him, not necessarily chaplains. By the way, he was discharged from chaplaincy soon enough and remained as an American. He wasn't a chaplain up to the end. He was. We had him in the British zone, where Yossel Rosensaft was the leader of the British zone. Then was late Traeger and Dr. Zalman Greenberg in the American zone, and we had some in the French zone. But all those people, I brought Ben-Gurion to Germany in 1945, end of 1945, beginning of 46. After Ben-Gurion discussed, and I made it possible for him to see Eisenhower, and after we discussed the entire thing with Rifkin and Eisenhower, etc., that the people have to be able to govern themselves. We have to give them the tools. Of course, we had to direct them, we had to, to take out their bitterness. But one of the greatest rehabilitation points was to give them independence. I mean, to give them a possibility of their own destiny.
Okay, could we deal with some of the other chaplains that you were involved with and try to give as specific details as possible of what they were doing?
Well, I'm telling you, this goes with great devotion for all the chaplains.
Well, not
and
all the
GIs.
chaplains were involved. There were certain chaplains that said it was my business to be the American chaplain in the American Army, and now we're not going to help the. So from your experience, who were the chaplains that you met that were very helpful?
Dector,
Dector. Hazelcorn.
Donaldson.
Donaldson was not a chaplain.
No, but he served in this
as
unit.
a chaplain. Okay.
And Jules Donaldson is his name.
Mm-hmm.
Well, offhand, I haven't got all the names, but
I
if
have
you
a
give me
list
the name,
give me
if you have the list, because I have it.
I'm sorry, it's a little.
Never mind.
As you could see.
I have to take my glasses. Well,
Blumenthal, you knew, and he was very active.
very. Barak, he was in Italy. Breslau, first class.
Really?
First class. Quiet, unassuming, you know, without big rush.
But when you called upon these people, they helped.
No, patient. Dekter, Dambovich, Esrik, of course Herb Friedman goes without saying. Goldstein.
Samson Goldstein?
Yeah.
Very helpful.
He helped with the Brecha a great lot because we had to transport through Czechoslovakia, and he was standing on those were fellows who endangered their mere resistance to be court-martialed by somebody or something.
Right.
Gorelik. Aaron Kahan.
He was also helpful.
Yeah.
The other son.
Well, Abe Klausner, you have him here. Eugene Lipman, of course. Well, he was one of the finest. Absolutely. Tops. Where is he, Eugene?
He's in Washington, D.C., at Temple Sinai, on Military Road.
Why didn't I know, for God's sakes? I wish I would have known. I'll write his address because I haven't seen
don't-
Eugene for many years.
I could send you the I think it's Temple Sinai, Military Road in Washington, D.C.
Milgrom.
Also helpful.
Well, you denied it, we don't discuss even it, of course.
Of course, what?
Look,
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
it's a very good friend of mine. Shubov. Oh, he was something. He was real something. Do you know where he is?
He died.
Shubov is not alive anymore. Oh, that is a pity. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Oh, he was. Oh.
About 5 years, I believe.
Why is Hazelcorn not here? Yeah, Hazelcorn.
Yeah, has a clue.
Skidel.
Skidel would not talk to me.
Why?
Because he was afraid that things of this nature should not be brought out about what the American Jewish chaplains are doing.
That is your baby.
Yeah.
I'm not a censor, but I can tell you one thing,
Yeah.
that I don't know whether there is a thing that overgoes,
I
but
mean, statute of
in the
limitations.
eyes
Yeah.
of the American government, they should be court-martialed. Because they were stealing arms, they were stealing everything that is, you
Wasn't
can lay
nailed
hands
down.
on. Hospitals, whole hospitals. Avraham Tzemach,
Tzemach also.
Troy, Wohlgelernter.
Vogelante.
Where is he?
Somebody said he's in Oregon. I have not been able to track him
God in
down.
heaven, I just lost track of them.
These are just some of the other people I interviewed.
Saul Lepe.
Simon Pavel was Eugene Lipman's second in command. They called him Shimon HaTzadik.
Yeah, they were such fine fellows, I can tell you. But I really don't know what you are going to do about it. Because, to tell the truth,
Yes.
they have robbed, not that the Mr. Marshall didn't hand it over then to Germany and to France. So I'm not sorry about that, but...
Well, I spoke to Rabbi Aryeh Lev, who, as you know, is in charge of the chaplains, about discussing this, and he said that there is no problem.
No problem.
No, he has no...
Look, from my point of view, go ahead. Go ahead. Why shouldn't it be told? The boys deserve it. They just deserve it. I think that they have done a job that without them we couldn't master.
You think that they were that important?
Yeah. We couldn't have mastered it. Simply.
That's very interesting. That's the first time I heard that. I don't even think that the chaplains themselves, none of the chaplains said
but that. But I say it. And believe me, I'm competent to
I
say
know, I realize that. That's why I find it so interesting, because they seem to, they felt that the most important people were the Palestinians, people like yourself. There's no question. All right.
No.
They were
wouldn't have known to do it.
Okay.
That's true. Because at the beginning I was, I'll tell you an instant. I was speaking a few months ago in Miami. And I was asked at 7 o'clock to be at the news television thing. I came in there, and with me drove up big car with a husky big fellow comes in. And I have an elephant memory to my greatest regret. Because it's very burdening, I can tell you. It is good, but it's good that somebody remembers. If somebody wants something to remember, so they come and ask me. And I recognized the fellow immediately. But I say nothing. The interviewer introduced me the book, Last Escape, etc., etc. Right. You can have it on the record because it's interesting.
No, fine. No, I just wanted to see how we...
And he introduced me, this is the mayor of Coral Gables. Coral Gables. I didn't even know where Coral, I know it's in Florida. To me, he was somebody else. So the interviewer said, you know, this lady is considered, etc., the heroine in Israel, etc. She wrote now a book about saving Jews from the camps. He said, well, I was there. I said, yes, you came with General Patton. So he looked at me and he said, I said, you're Colonel Knight, aren't you? He got pale as a sheet. He said, you know me? I said, yes, you came to Mauthausen with General Patton and he fainted. That's true. He fainted and then started to use a language that I will never repeat, of course, because he was very mad at himself. And Knight was his aide-de-camp. Mm-hmm. Now he's mayor of Coral Gables. So, and I recognized him, so we started to talk about this. It must be told. Not, of course, we had to do the job, but this, if we speak about Klausner, this is the difference between doing business of something or doing the job. That's it. It's true that we have asked, like Hazelcore, the PX card, from whoever, what for? Not to make money, and not to build villas, and not to buy arts, but to sell the cigarettes in order to have money to do the brecha. We needed money, we needed bribe.
Right.
You understand?
Sure.
Now, if you will tell me that this wasn't a great help, I'll tell you that's not true. If I'm speaking about the Seder in Grand Arenas, and I have sent out a few GIs with the chaplain like Aaron Decter, they have got to bring me matzahs, and I don't care from where. And they have got to see to it that they are being slaughtered, where they will get the fresh meat, I don't care, but it has to be kosher, because I asked then, or who is today the chief rabbi in France, Kaplan, who was then one of the resistants of the, with whom, yes, whom I have here the medal of Mr. de Gaulle, who gave me then a medal of the Croix de la Lorraine. But I didn't care. I needed vegetables, and I needed charoises, and I need everything, but it was there. And I said, you make sure that money, I said, that's the money I have. You must manage with it. How? I don't know. I have no more money. That's it. There was no question. It was there. It was organized. I think it was the most beautiful Seder for 3,000 people that I have ever witnessed in my life, which I think is a privilege. But it was with the help of those people. Now, if you will tell me that without that we could have managed, I say no. I say no, because trucks and blankets and medical equipment and tires and fuel and whatever, he didn't have.
Could you have gotten that from the GIs themselves? You said that the Jewish GIs and even the Gentile GIs were helpful.
Absolutely.
Well,
I can tell you, Quakers don't steal. But if I have asked Cordelia Trimble and her friend to do it, they did it.
I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate here for a moment and saying that, well, if you could have gotten it from the GIs and the chaplains themselves may not have been important.
Would have been?
Not been important. In other words, what was unique about the chaplain's role there that was so important? Couldn't you have gotten the same material from GIs?
Not all of it. Very little.
Okay.
I mean, I could, when I had already the people before their eyes, and I could appeal to their, they didn't know what they're doing. The Goyish, it was a humanitarian, it is in the nature of an American to help the underdog.
Right.
But the chaplains have done it with the Yiddish hearts.
Right.
You understand what I mean? It's a
right.
different story.
Okay.
It's a completely different story to accompany to help us to accompany the Brecha, to be in Italy and to provide the ships. For where could we have had provision?
Were the Italian chaplains very helpful? The Jewish, American Jewish chaplains who were in Italy?
Yeah, I'm speaking for all of Europe. I'm not speaking of Germany
Germany
only.
or Austria?
No. I'm speaking of France, of Belgium, of Holland, of Germany,
and Italy.
and Italy.
Well, the reason I bring up Italy is because from what I am told by some of the chaplains themselves, there was much less that they could do in Italy because, one, the
That's
Palestinians were...
We
so,
were flooded there.
very,
And we ourselves started to know the tricks how to take.
Right. Well, you took care of the situation
Yes,
yourselves.
but if we needed something that we could not take care ourselves,
Call
and
upon
not
the
to
chaplain.
endanger the operation as such,
Right.
because Italy was not the place of... we kept, for instance, if you want, Russian Jewish immigration started, and I made a lot of Russian soldiers desert and go into the American zone. Well, for that, I did not use anybody. You see, that kind of thing,
Right. You have to
I
do
would
so.
not involve anybody, because that's impossible. Nobody, not even Herbert Friedman. I wouldn't say anybody. I hardly spoke to our own people about it. Because those were, you see, those kind of operations. Or to bring them from Poland via Czechoslovakia. The organization, thank you, was terribly secret. And there were only less than a handful of people to handle it. But when we said we need this, we never tried to explain why. You get it, and you get it now. For what? It's none of your business.
I see.
Some, one or two, like Aaron Decton, or Eugene Lipman, or, where we knew it, so that's all right. But also not to the end, not the real thing. Because among our own people, how many people knew that I'm the head of the entire operation? Very few. Very few. I don't think I'm very helpful.
No, you've been very, very helpful, as a matter of fact.
But there is one thing that I will want you to take from me. And this is...
Side 2.
One thing I would like to... you can always come back to me and ask me questions after you have seen other people and to fill in.
Fine.
I'll do that with guilt. I feel it as my innermost duty. Lasot tzedek.
Right.
And lasot tzedek, I want you to take this statement. The Jewish chaplains, Jewish American chaplains, as a whole, without going into specific, of course, some outstanding, and Jewish GIs were our bread baskets, if you want to, in every way. I'm not speaking only of food. To be able to do the job. And I think that tribute is about time I pay to them. I do it wherever I can, but if you record it, then record it. I do not think it would have been possible without it, or it would not be a possibility to do it the way. For instance, when we needed to create a theater there from actors who were in the camps, and we needed things. GIs and the chaplains immediately goes, find them, you don't care where you take it. They did. They did. In other words, they felt themselves as part of being mobilized. And they did it with great devotion. And then later on, first they didn't know what's all about it. It was the shattering experience to have seen what they did. But later they did it out of conviction. I mean not much later.
Right, I understand.
Not much later.
If you had to single out a number of chaplains you say were outstanding, who would they be?
Eugene.
Excuse me?
Eugene Lipman.
Gene Lipman. Decter. Hazelcorn.
No, the one you said is not anymore.
Shubo. Friedman,
Of course. How he did a beautiful job. Then there was from Canada one. Levi Becker.
Levi Becker. Well, he was the JDC. Yeah.
Yes, but he acted as a chaplain would. He did things that the JDC would most likely not have approved in any way, I'm telling you.
Well, he's an exceptional man.
What a fellow. Just absolutely tops. And I can tell you that it was not. I couldn't say that for Greenley, who was also JDC. I couldn't say that for others. I don't say it because I frankly say they were JDC, finished. Let's not talk about that. But Levi Becker didn't care. He just didn't. He just asked me, what do you want? That's it.
You know, he had rabbinical training. He's a rabbi, I believe.
I know. I was last year there, and I was in the house. He's a Kaplan, Mordechai Kaplan's advancement.
Protégé. Okay, if there's nothing else that you wanted to tell me about the chaplain.
I propose, I don't know whom you are going to interview.
Who do you suggest? Well, I've interviewed most of the chaplains, but who do you suggest that I speak to?
Have you been interviewing Aaron Dector?
Dector, I didn't see him personally, but I'm going to get something. He said he was going to send me a tape. I sent him a questionnaire, and he's going to do it.
You should sit with him. I think it's much better if you are having an interview, person to person. Have you interviewed Abe? Yes, I understand, yes.
Klausner?
Yes.
Yes, I've spoken to him.
And Neidich?
Nadich I haven't spoken to because I just simply did not know what to ask him.
I propose you ask him everything.
Well, you see, I read his book, and I still didn't understand what... and the chaplains told me that...
It was a hard,
what
tough time.
What you had to say. Only they were a little more explicit. Was there anyone else you thought I should see?
Is that the whole list?
That's the whole list, yes.
That's here.
No, these are people that I interviewed who were not chaplains, but...
Did you interview Soleil?
Yeah, do you know Sol Loeb?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was a chaplain's assistant.
They lived one together.
And Klausner.
Yeah. Ben Kaplan?
Ben Kaplan I spoke to.
Glatzer?
Glatzer, yeah, from Regensburg. Nesher I spoke to.
Well, Naaser was one of the survivors who played a role as secretary of the... Herschel Schechter.
Sure.
Just one.
Were you working with him in saving those Jewish children from Switzerland? What was the story? What was your role in that?
Well, the question was that the children were transferred first from Toulouse over the border to Switzerland.
Right.
And then we have got to get them back.
Get them back where?
To get them back eventually to bring them over to Israel.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But our in-between goer was Herschel.
Mm-hmm.
Later, I mean 45.
Yeah, right.
But he did it beautifully. Quiet, no tumult, no rush, no...
The D signifies deceased. Do you see it being the...
No, I caught up with it.
Yeah.
It's too late. This is why I stopped. I
Yeah.
wanted to say something, and I saw the D. Elephant, Milton.
He's supposed to send me a tape. You see the problem?
Got initiatives of their own. You know, all of a sudden they got into what you call into the act, and they
Yeah.
liked it. Cats.
Morris Kurtzen. What was your impression of him?
Again, Shalom Aleichem says, zum nicht reden kommt es nicht.
Okay.
Well, I think that Schenk. Did you see Schenk?
Schenk? Oh, Emmanuel Schenk.
Yeah.
He sent me just a tape. I just got from him, yes.
Did he speak?
Yeah, he spoke.
His story is nice.
You worked with a lot of chaplains.
Oh, they were my soldiers. They were my gdut. So, I had to. Ralph Blumenthal.
He's either not with us anymore
No.
or he's
No, the Blinder is not with us.
Blinder. But Blumenthal I couldn't find. Now, I don't know what happened to him.
Isn't he working in Hayas?
Perhaps, I don't know. You know that he's still alive?
Just a minute. Just a minute. Maybe he is teaching at the St. Xavier University in Chicago.
Where?
There's a university which is called the St. Xavier University.
Oh,
Xavier.
St. Xavier, yeah.
I think he's teaching there.
Okay. I traced him to California, and that was it. I lost him there sometime.
Oh, in California are two fellows. I wish I would have had here the names, who were also helped. They came to see me from Hollywood. They live in Hollywood. GIs who were in the Seder business, they were helping the doctor, and I haven't got their names here. You can trace them through the Federation in Miami, in Biscayne.
Yeah.
And I propose you write this, to find the names of the people who came from Hollywood to see me when I spoke at the Federation in January. They have it, because I haven't got the material, you understand? I don't know where it's scattered now. I have bundled up everything. But it's easy, they will give you the names.
Okay.
And they are very important, wonderful people. They were assistants, I can't remember, either to Aaron Decter,
Or to Hazelcorn?
or, no, not to Hazelcorn. To Hazelcorn.
Because there was somebody from Miami who's Gary Bernstein.
Gary Bernstein.
Yeah, I sent him
Yeah.
in February.
Yeah. One is Gary Bernstein, the other one is Horowitz, I think, or something like that. I can't.
That I don't know, but Gary
I
Bernstein
can't.
I've already written to.
What is Rabbi Stone doing here?
Stone, someone suggested that I speak to him because he was supposedly involved in this, but he told me no.
That's why I'm asking what he's doing there. He was involved in other things. Kohler.
Who? Cy Kohler, yeah, I
Yeah.
spoke to him. He,
Yeah, sorry.
he just had an operation on his leg. It was amputated.
Sai? He was my adjutant, how do you call it, at the camp.
Yeah.
Did he tell you? Sai was amputated, his leg. Where did you find him, Rishon? Breaks my heart. He was moving from Kfar Giladi to Rishon LeZion, and now
He lives very close to Tzahala. I don't have his address with me.
in
but-
Neve Magen.
Neve
most
Magen,
likely.
something like that.
I tried to think about Sai, and I just Yeah, he was for 2 years my editor.
Would you say I have a pretty complete list of people? Those I've spoken to. Suggest anybody else aside from the chaplains?
Jules Donaldson. He's in Detroit.
In Detroit.
You can find him. He's a travel agency. You can find him very easy. He was the first courier for very sophisticated. He didn't know what he's doing. I caught him and I said, I said, where are you going for a furlough? He said, I'm going to Palestine. I said, going to Palestine? Can you take a letter to my family with a little parcel? So he looked at me. He said, make sure that nobody will open it. So I said, well, it's a letter, it's a parcel. I said, I don't want it. Either you can do it or not, and give me your word of honor, not for your life. So he looked at me, and with a twinkle in his eye, didn't ask me any question. And that was a document that I stole from Eisenhower's desk. The report about the Harrison report. And he brought it in. It was Jules Donaldson. And I proposed to speak to him. He was lieutenant to the American in the intelligence.
Oh my God, so many little big.
If he would have been caught, I mean, I was expected to be court-martialed and shot. Because Eisenhower couldn't be a fool. I was the only person in his room. And I saw this document on top of the desk. And I stole it and put it into my pocket the day when I had lunch with him. And then I gave it to Donaldson. And he was in the intelligence corps. So he would also have been court-martialed and shot without any question. But that was the only person I couldn't trust.
Do you intend to write about this period? Your book?
Yeah, I'm halfway.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.